you guys. Thank you for coming out. I'm Kitty Felde, and we're going to be taping what's going to end up being a live show, which means you're the most important part. So no one is going to know how many people are in this auditorium. So we're going to practice applauding when I give the signal, all right? So when I go like this, I want to hear applause. Let's hear it. Brilliant, brilliant. And at the end, or sort of towards the end of the show, if you have questions for the author or for our celebrity reader or for the kids, we have microphones on either side, so I'll give you an indication of when to go down there and get ready to ask. And the thing we would like to also ask at the very end of the show is, do you have a favorite book? Think about that. And if you do, tell us the name of the book and why you like it. Not what the plot is about, but why you like that particular book. Okay? The other question is, who subscribed to the Book Club for Kids podcast? Who knows how to subscribe to a podcast? That's the more important question. Who knows what a podcast is? Truly, does anybody know it? Yes, what's a podcast?
A live show kind of thing?
It could be, yeah. Who listens to podcasts? Anybody listen to podcasts? All right, I'm going to open your world. You guys are going to never go back. On your smartphone, most of you have an app called Podcasts. If you don't, you download a podcast player, which could be Stitcher or SoundCloud. And if you're interested in lacrosse, if you're interested in baking cakes, if you're interested in weird English words, there are podcasts on all of those topics, and you just type in the topic and it shows up. So what I would like you to do is type in Book Club for Kids and hit the subscribe button so that you will get new shows every couple of weeks. And what it is, it's 3 kids talking about a book, interview with the author, and a celebrity reader. And it's appropriate for kids of all ages, and that's all I have to say. So we're going to get ready, and you guys know your applause line, right? Okay, I just want to make sure. Didn't we forget? All right, we're ready to start. Let's see, you guys ready to start? Yeah. All right, let's do it. Edition of the Book Club for Kids. I am Kitty Felde, and we are here at the National Archives. It's their celebration they call the Right Stuff, Literacy, Writing, and Research Festival. And it's this very special on-the-road edition. The Book Club for Kids is the podcast where kids talk about books, and we'll tell you how you can be on the show a little bit later on. But first, let's meet our panel of readers from the Girlfriends Book Club in Baltimore, who are here to talk about our book this week. It's called A Little Wicked by Jana Mccreary. So let us start off by having you guys introduce yourselves. Who wants to start?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm 10 years old, and I'm going into the 6th grade, and the school I'm recently in is St. Louis.
In whereabouts? Not in St. Louis, Missouri. Columbia, Maryland. Okay, all right. Michaela?
My name is Michaela. I'm 11 years old. I'm going to 6th grade in Glen Oak Country School in Ellicott City.
My name's Chimay. I'm 11 years old, and I'm going to 6th grade at Glen Oak Country School in Ellicott City, Maryland.
Hi, I'm Aubrey. I'm 10 years old. I'm going into 6th grade at Folly Quarter Middle in Columbia.
And we have to say, we are not unfamiliar with the Girlfriends Book Club. This is your guys' 3rd time doing the show? Yes. I think so. And
yes.
You guys have been meeting for how long? Since when?
Since
4th grade.
4th grade.
4th grade?
4th grade.
Wow. And you started talking about books then? Why did you want to start a book club back then?
Well, I actually just joined this year, but I only wanted to, I love reading, so I think that joining a book club with other people who like reading would be a good thing to do.
Aubrey, how long have you been with the book club?
A couple years now. It's really fun because we read a lot of different books, and sometimes it's not books that we are used to reading. and then we get to talk about it and do fun activities.
Michaela, were you there at the beginning?
Yes.
And what made you guys decide this would be some good way to spend time instead of, out playing soccer or playing video games or doing something else?
Because reading a book really educate your mind, and you get to learn a lot of new words by reading a book, and probably when you're done, you could just go anywhere and talk about a book with friends, and that's the fun part about it.
That's good. Sarah, anything? What's the appeal for you?
Well, you see, the reason I thought it would be good to join the book club was because you get to meet people and make new friends, and you also just get to read different books and see what kinds of books that you like.
Well, let's talk about this book that we have today. It's called A Little Wicked. Let's show everybody. You guys got them on your lap, so show the audience. There we are. And if you are listening, you can go to our website, bookclubforkids.org, and you can see a picture of it there. Why don't you guys stick those under your chair so we don't hear noise. Who wants to start us off by telling us a little bit what this book is about? Because I'm sure not all of us finished reading it before we got here this morning. Who wants to start us off?
Me.
Oh, Michaela will. All right, go.
Okay. The book is about a 12-year-old girl named Dory, and her family gets attacked by another clan. So the chief, their chief, decides to let Dory go into the new world.
And I'm going to hold you right there. You talked about clan. Where the heck are we at the beginning of this book?
In Scotland.
We're in 1962, Scotland.
1962?
That was 1690.
1692. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what's it like there? What's Scotland like?
She said that it had a lot of hills and mountains, and it was very peaceful. Well, sometimes it was peaceful until
until
neighboring
it got
clans
attacked.
came to attack them.
Okay. And what was life like for our heroine then? What was she doing? How old is she in this book?
12.
12. So what was did she go to school? What do we know about her? What was her daily life like before everything changed?
She said that she liked to go hunting with her friends, the Hendersons, the Henderson brothers were her friends, and she liked to go play with them down by water. She said she has a bird named Merlin, a buzzard, and her mother doesn't really approve of the things she does because she just rather her stay at home and cook and clean, but she likes to go, Dory likes to go on adventures with her friends.
So what happened that changed her life? You mentioned it, Michaela. Continue.
The Campbells attacked their other clan. They attacked them, and they were going to kill all the McDonald's they could see. So Dory and her family, they were trying to escape, but luckily they survived. But Dory was just so heartbroken because her friends and family are dead, and now it's kind of hard going through this. It's kind of hard going through this moment because you're trying to get it together and trying to trying to.
Well, hold the thought. We'll come back to that, okay?
Okay.
Sarah, so they leave Scotland. Where do they go? Where does she get on a plane and flies to France or someplace interesting?
No, they find a place that they think might be safe, and they set up a camp there. And at night, they gather rocks and sticks to make a fire, and they place the rocks next to the fire, so at night you have something warm and hot to hold so you don't get cold.
Yeah, it really made me not want to be that cold or that hot. I can imagine a hot rock next to me would be not particularly comfortable. Eventually, she escapes, gets on a ship. What's the ship like?
She has to disguise herself as a boy.
Why?
Because she's going to be part of the crew, and the crew is just boys, And the only person on the ship that knew she was a girl was the captain himself. And she had to disguise as a boy because the captain didn't want her to be like different from everyone else, because there's not really girls on the crew back then.
It was kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
So what happened? Was it a pleasant trip? Was it a great trip? Was it
No, because like since she was like the new person, all of the crew members were like playing pranks on her and stuff. And the captain's parrot was kind of like getting her and her bird into trouble. Her bird Merlin, the captain's parrot was getting her and Merlin into trouble.
I want to come back to that bird. So she arrives in America at a not particularly good time or place. Where does she end up?
She ends up in Massachusetts, and the bad thing is it's during the witch trials.
She arrives in Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah, not exactly your best timing of places to land.
And the captain gave her until the ship was unloaded to find her uncle, or else she had to pay off the fee by being the captain's wife's servant. But somehow she found her uncle, and her uncle paid her fee, and they took her in.
And how are these new relatives? How'd they treat her? Sarah?
They treat her very well, like family. The aunt actually knows that she can't really write the English language, so the aunt tutors her on how to write.
And they're kind of nervous. Why? Michaela?
They're nervous because, Dory, she's from Scotland, and now they're in Massachusetts. So they had to keep her cover a low, because they don't want anyone to accuse Dory for being a witch, or family members.
Well, let's hear a little bit from this book so we can kind of a taste of what it sounds like and what the story is. So we'll take a pause and hear from our celebrity reader. Her voice is as familiar as NPR itself, one of what we call the founding mothers of public radio, the first woman to anchor a national nightly news show. She's been inducted into the Broadcasting and Radio Halls of Fame. Let's have a very warm welcome for NPR correspondent, sometimes known as Josh Stamberg's mama, Susan Stamberg.
Hi. Hi. This is so great. You're obviously such good readers. I love hearing you tell the story. And now we ought to listen to the language of the story. You hear me okay? There's two here, Kitty. What do you think? Do I need to? Which is better, this or just one? Probably just one. Okay. Give me a minute. I have to put on my specs. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, I said. The food smelled wonderful. I dug in. The bread tasted sweet and delicious. A few minutes into my meal, Aunt Orly handed me a cloth napkin. I realized I was bent over my plate, shoveling food in my mouth like an animal. Apparently, I had been at sea too long. Embarrassed by my boorish behavior, I took the napkin, sat back, and ate like the granddaughter of a clan chief that I was. Aunt Orly busied herself with folding linens. How many languages do you know? She asked, when I paused to breathe between bites. 5, ma'am, I answered with pride. Gaelic, English, Scots, French, and Latin. Can you read or write any of them? No, ma'am. My pride diminished. That is fine. We can teach you to read and write English. You know your scripture lessons? Well enough to satisfy Father, ma'am. And Ornach an Ticharna? Do you know that? Aye, ma'am. In English, it's called the Lord's Prayer. Only in Gaelic, ma'am, and French. Seeing that this disappointed her, I added, I am sure I can learn it in English. You will have to, she said. It is one of the tests. Tests, ma'am? Aye. The ministers seem to think that witches cannot recite the Lord's Prayer without mistakes. It is part of the examination for suspected witches. With my stomach satisfied for the first time since I could remember, and my body in clean clothes, I had begun to feel stronger, and my headache to fade. A trickle of fear wormed its way into my full stomach. The talk of witches disturbed me. Aunt Orley spoke as if I would have to undergo an examination for suspected witches. If that were true, then Uncle was right. Everyone in Salem had gone mad. I decided to brave another question. "Will you tell me more of these witches, ma'am?" I ventured. "It is silliness gone awry. Witches is the word they use here for anyone they believe is under control of the devil. Their main crime seems to be making young girls cry. It started months ago when a few girls became ill and the doctor proclaimed there was nothing to be done. The minister sat with them and declared them bewitched. Through prayer and fasting, they healed. Then Reverend Parris claimed his slave woman from Barbados, Tituba, confessed to bewitching the girls, one of whom was his own daughter. He claims the slave woman named others who were with her when she signed the devil's book. Soon there were suspected witches everywhere, not just in Salem, but other towns too, Andover, Beverly, Boston." I nodded. Under the table, my hands twisted and untwisted the napkin. "None of that is important right now. You must get used to your new home and routine as soon as possible. Justin will expect you to perform the same chores our Margaret did, and I will teach you to read and write as you do them. You will have some freedoms on the farms, but we must be careful. Anything can put you under suspicion. Do not speak anything but English when anyone else can hear you, even your uncle." "Would he suspect me a witch, ma'am?" I asked, alarmed. "No, child. He would suspect it a more difficult task to protect you." Squeals and snorts from the pigs arose to a new pitch. They sounded frightened. Uncle burst through the door and yelled, "Child, come quickly! I believe I found your buzzer." Thank you.
We're going to bring Susan out a little bit later on, so she'll confess what is her favorite book, which is the question we ask everybody. So I hope you're thinking about which one is your favorite book. Let's talk a little bit about Dory. Do we like her? Is there another character you like better? You're nodding, Michaela. You like Dory?
Oh yeah.
Tell me why.
Because she's like brave and strong. Because on the part where like when she went on the pirate ship, when she went on the pirate ship, and like the crew was like picking on her, she didn't blow her cover that she's a girl, and she was like strong enough to get through the whole like ship ride because there was like a lot going on.
Would you be that brave?
I will be that brave.
Okay, all right. Who else? Anybody else like Dory, or is she not your favorite character?
I like Dory. She is really smart. One time when her and her escort to the place where she was going to get on the ship to America, they were trying to find a place for a shelter, and there were castle ruins nearby, and she had the idea to make the shelter at the castle ruins so the wind wouldn't be coming at them from all sides.
So she was brave, and she was, what do you call that when you come up, and she would come up with ideas. She was
intelligent.
Yeah, she was intelligent, so that's why you liked her too. What else? Are you a Dory fan or not?
Yeah, I like her because she was resourceful and she...
Resourceful, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
She knew how to use what was around her to her advantage and how to get out of some tough situations.
Would you be that resourceful?
I don't know if I would because I don't like think too quick on my feet. Like I can think, but like not too quick on my feet like Dory can.
Are you resourceful enough, do you think, Aubrey?
Kind of.
Okay, all right.
Not as much as Dory, though.
Not as much. We're never as good as the people in the stories, but oh well, right? Sarah, about you? Would you be that resourceful?
Yes.
Okay. Was she your favorite character, or did you have a different one?
She was my favorite character because she was brave and she never gave up even when she really wanted to.
Let's talk about Merlin. He was my favorite character because he was sort of, independent and resourceful in his own way. He crossed the ocean, sort of snuck over on his own. Generally people have parrots as pets or cockatiels or, little parakeets. They don't generally have buzzards as pets. Talk a little bit about Merlin.
Well, Merlin, he's a bird that he gets his own food, like voles or small mice. And he was trained to come when Dory called him, but he just finds her when it's the right time, and he always comes at the exact right time.
Kind of like a dog.
Yeah.
Like this mysterious dog that follows you around. Did you guys study the Salem witch trials in school? Did you know anything about them before you read this book?
No.
Yes.
Well,
I knew a little bit about them, not too much, but I knew a little.
What'd you know, and do you know where you learned it?
I don't know. I think I just went to the library and I just saw a book about it and I just picked it up. But that was like when I was in 3rd grade, though. So.
Anybody? Who else said yes?
Me.
Yes. Sarah?
I learned about them in my school. We were learning about the New World and all about what was happening in there. Mm-hmm. And the witch trials, people just started thinking that people were witches because they saw that they were doing odd things and odd behavior.
I always think about that period of history and wonder what really happened. What was really going on? I mean, do you guys believe there really were witches at that time, or was there another explanation for it, do you think?
I mean, I think they believe that they're witches,
Yeah.
but now I think that us looking back on it, I don't think that we think that there was witches.
What do you think happened?
I think that the people who they accused of being witches were just doing things that they weren't used to seeing or hearing about, and they just thought that they were of the devil or something.
Any other ideas about, just doing unusual things? What do we do to people who are not behaving what we would call normally? How do we treat people like that? Who would we think, let's say somebody today was blasted back into the past to Salem. Who do you think they would accuse of being a witch? Who today would be acting a little unusual that might be accused of being a witch? What would they think as witch-like behavior?
Maybe if they were talking about a self-driving car or something, I don't know.
Self-driving cars? Yeah, that probably would get you branded right away. Yeah, that's a good one. What else?
Maybe how you make something fly, like airplanes. They didn't have them back then, so they would probably be like, "How did you make that fly?"
They would be suspicious of anything modern, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What else might get you targeted?
Like TV.
If you were talking about TV. What about just something besides modern devices? What kind of behavior do you think would get you targeted? I'm flashing all you guys back to Salem in the 1600s. What would you have to be really careful not to do in order to not attract attention to yourself, to be accused of being a witch?
Probably just not talk about sort of the things, I know back then they were more reserved. I feel like the things we talk about nowadays would kind of make them think we were kind of odd or
Like
weird.
what?
All the politics and stuff and just all the things that are going on in the world, they would probably think that those were a bit crazy.
What about just being a smart girl? Would that get you in trouble, do you think?
Yeah,
Probably, because girls back then were expected to cook and clean. They didn't really have a proper education, most of them.
Except Dory. Dory spoke how many languages? 4?
5.
5. I speak 1.5. How many do you speak?
1.5.
1.5.
It's because of Spanish at school. That's it.
Yeah, in America we don't learn languages until you're almost in middle school. And
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And in Europe you get taught when you're this tall. That's why everybody in Europe, there's a terrible joke. I've told this before, but it's a terrible joke. They say, what do you call someone who speaks 2 languages? Do Do you know the name for that?
Bilingual?
Yes, bilingual. What would you call someone who speaks 3 languages?
Trilingual?
Trilingual. What do you call someone who speaks 1 language?
One-lingual?
One would think American.
Oh.
Because we just don't learn languages well enough. But what else do you guys know? So we're not really linguists in this group, but that's okay. What other skills do you have that also might, besides being smart and knowing about modern things, what else do you have about you that might get people really upset if you were flashed back to the 1600s?
Like the way that we're dressing right
The way
now.
you were dressed. There you go. Yeah. What else?
Maybe modern games
Like
like soccer or football. I don't know.
playing those games, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they would be seen as ungodly. Or
Yeah.
witch-like.
Yeah, people like tackling each other in American football, that they probably wouldn't like.
I think that too about football, but that's me. What else?
Probably like, well, we just like go to the grocery store, and like back then they had to like grow their food and make it.
So the fact that you'd expect instant food would be, that would make you stand out. What else, Sarah?
The way we talk, maybe, because
Like
they talk differently. Like today we go like OMG, LOL.
And they would think that was secret code for the devil?
Yes.
Probably.
Somebody was saying yesterday how do you guys learn cursive in school? How,
No.
Right
Yeah,
now?
a little bit.
A little
No.
bit. Like
Yes and no.
I learned it for like I learned it for like 2 years in 2nd and 3rd grade, but that was it.
Well, they were looking at old documents like from, the Revolutionary War time and how the F's looked like S's and things like that. And they were having a hard time reading them. And I thought, I wonder if the same thing's happening with cursive, that, the next generation after you guys are going to look at that and go, what is this language that people are communicating with? So, well, would you like to first, let's start with Scotland. Would you like to be in Scotland now or then?
Now, I think
Probably
now.
not then.
Not
Would
then.
you? Okay,
Because-
It's like
Like, especially at the MacDonald tribe or clan, because they were getting attacked and they weren't on the best side of the king. The king didn't really like them.
So it'd be dangerous.
Yeah.
Did it sound like a pretty place, though, to go? Would you like to go now?
Yes.
It
yeah,
sounded
now
pretty.
during summer, but during the winter, I know when she was in Scotland it was winter, and they said like there was like a foot of snow everywhere, so
Yeah, in
probably
the
during the
winter,
summer.
It sounded really cold.
You get snow here.
But not
like,
that cold.
Well,
Because it's like
yeah.
farther up north, so.
Okay, so it'd be colder in
Yeah.
winter. And we're all a bunch of wusses, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
How about would you like to have been, probably not, but would you like to have been in Salem in the 1600s? Do you think you could have survived? Let's put it this way. Could you keep your modernness under wraps and survive in Salem in the 1600s?
No.
If
No,
I had to.
No, because I know I'll be doing really well, and then I'll just say like OMG, and then they'd accuse me of being a witch or something.
And then you'd have nowhere to go from there.
Yeah.
What about the way that kids were expected to behave back then? You talked on it a little bit.
They weren't supposed to talk to adults unless they were talked to by them. And they had to say like, ma'am and sir.
Well, what do you think about that? Could you do that?
It would be hard.
It would be hard, like trying to like remember what to say, and like when to say it.
But don't we still respect elders? You guys certainly are
Oh.
a well-behaved bunch of people. We don't, we're not insulting people. What do we do to show respect today?
You can just say like you can just like maybe you don't talk back or something, or you can just say, or if like your parent calls you, you can just say like yes or something. But like back then it was like more strict than I think it is now.
What else?
Be very polite. That's always an option.
Having good manners,
What does that mean?
like saying please and thank you.
What else?
Probably not to say like. Probably not like say like what when they say like when they like call you because I sometimes do that.
Yeah, I know, I do too.
I-
What do you want? So what's that line? Where's that line you cross when you know you've probably done something that isn't as respectful as it ought to be? What's that line? Where's that? You talked about it. Saying what? What else is a no-no line to cross? That maybe we, of course, never cross it, but maybe somebody we know crosses that line to be disrespectful.
Well, I know I do this. Like, sometimes I talk back to, and that's like not very good.
Like how bad?
It's gotten really bad sometimes.
I hear it gets worse when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
What else?
Maybe like saying no a lot to the parents.
Okay.
Like, yeah, and, like, and,
Not giving full responses, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say the theme of this book, or what's the overall feeling of this book? I mean, is there something you take away after reading this book that...
I feel like just like to always just be brave and just kind of just not really give up and just kind of always just
Persist.
just persist.
Okay, all right. What else?
and it was a harder time back then than it was here. Now we're just kind of laid back, and then it was always work, and you had to be on your best behavior all the time. And
Didn't seem like there
things.
was much playtime for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like they were always like doing chores or something back then.
Yeah.
Unless you got up in like the middle of the night.
Which some of them did. Got to milk those cows in the middle of the night, practically, first thing in the morning. Well, let us do this. Let us... Oh, and let me just ask a couple more things here. Talk about some of the historical details in this book. Was this something that made you realize this took place in a particular place in time? So you knew that it didn't take place in modern day. What were the things that stuck out? Was there some detail about the place or the time that you remember?
They were calling America the New World.
The New World.
And colonies instead of states.
It's good. What else?
Witch hunts.
Yeah, we don't have many of that. We have witch hunts, but we don't call them, it's so interesting how language gets co-opted. So they may call it a political witch hunt, or they may call it a, something else witch hunt, but it's not like you're going and finding witches and burning them at the stake. It's a different thing. You're looking at me like that, but that's what they did. In the 1950s, that's what they called the McCarthy hearings, was the political witch hunt, because they were basically branding people and putting them before an audience. What else?
Well, clans.
Clans. We have a different connotation for clans today, but back then, what did it mean?
Well, it means like, it probably means different, well.
What was it? What did they mean when they
Probably
said?
like a group of people, different groups of people who like have like different heritage and things like that.
Like family groups and stuff like that. Yeah.
And like now we can just move from one city or town to another. They didn't really, especially in Scotland, have it developed into towns and cities, and it wasn't really common for people to move clans like we move towns now.
Yeah, you'd stick with your own kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have the courage to cross the ocean without your parents?
No.
No, none of you? Really?
Well, like Dory knew that's if she was going to preserve the clan. Like if I had to do something like that, then sure. But if it was just a trip, then no.
Okay.
Yeah, life is like the same thing as Aubrey. If it was like to preserve like my family's history or something, I might be able to do it. But if it was just to go overseas and just like go on like a vacation or something, I would probably need like a parent with me.
Okay.
Yeah, if it was like family matters, like I would go, but trips, no.
All right. Sarah?
So like, if it's like very, very important, I might go.
But I hear that quiver in your voice. It doesn't sound like something you choose to do at all.
No.
No, yeah. Well, let us do this. Let us talk to our writer a little bit about Scotland and that world and how she did research. Like the heroine of her book, Jana Mccreary emigrated from Scotland to America, although I kind of doubt that she's ever been accused of being a witch, but we don't know. We can ask her that. A Little Wicked is her debut novel. Please, let's welcome our writer, Jana Mccreary.
Hello.
So, Jana, start off with telling us why this story. Why did this story speak to you?
Well, my ancestors are from Scotland. I was born here.
Oh, I mistook.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
So my husband and I were planning our first, what at the time we thought was our one and only trip to Scotland. And so we tried to pack in as many places that our ancestors came from as we could. And Glencoe is where the MacDonalds are from, obviously, and my husband's clan, the Macrearys, are part of the MacDonald clan. So I'd known the story of the massacre of Glencoe, but the Glencoe Visitor Center is extraordinary, and if you ever get an opportunity to go, I highly suggest you spend at least 2 or 3 hours there. It was wonderful. And so that is where the story begins.
And how did you get those details about, you know, like the hot rock that we talked about, sleeping with a hot rock?
Lots and lots of research. There have been many, many volumes and articles and blog posts and all kind of things written about both the Glencoe Massacre and the Salem Witch Trials. So researching the time period, reading as many primary sources and chronicles and newspaper articles from the time period, and I stumbled across this idea that sleeping with a hot rock, campers today sleep with a hot water bottle, which I think would be more comfortable than a rock. But at the time, they didn't have hot water bottles, and so they would heat up a rock and fall asleep with it.
And what about that idea of, I mean, it's sort of like there's two stories going on. There's this, what was going on in Scotland at that time, and then you've got a big thing that happened in America, the Salem Witch Trials. What made you think about putting the two things together?
When I left Glencoe, Dory was with me. She was talking to me, jabbering in my head, and I knew I had to write a story about a survivor from the Glencoe Massacre. So I was literally searching online and went to history.com, and I typed in the year 1692, and up came the Salem Witch Trials. And I said, there's your story.
You guys want to ask some questions from Janet? I'll let you think a second, and then I'll. All right, let me ask one more, and then you can all jump in. Talk about the food. Again, was that something that came up in your research? I thought the food was particularly, that was the detail that stuck in my head as I was reading the book.
The Scottish food or the American food?
The Scottish food and the American food. Maybe I was just hungry when I was reading the book.
Yeah, again, a lot of research. Luckily, it wasn't our only trip to Scotland, so I got to do a lot of in-person research, both in Scotland and in Massachusetts. And people are very proud of their heritage, and if you ask the right questions to the right people, they will talk to you for as long as you let them about, you know, my great Mary's 6 times grandmother was famous for her cornbread. If you couldn't catch a hare in Scotland, you couldn't survive more than a day. They love to tease visitors about haggis and what it's actually made of, and if it's an animal or a product of an animal. And it's talking to people in the places where these things happened. It's the best kind of research you can do.
Well, let's ask these guys. Have you ever heard of haggis before?
Yeah.
What did you know about haggis?
I know it's like a bunch of different animal meat, like put into like one sausage or something.
Not exactly meat.
Or like lungs or something.
Organs, yes.
I've had it, actually. I had it on Burns Day.
Yes.
And it was actually kind of good. It had kind of the consistency of oatmeal. And it was kind of spicy oatmeal is kind of what it tasted like to me. But
Modern haggis has a lot more oats in it than it would have before. But it doesn't taste bad. It's very good. Blood pudding is very similar, but it's held together more with pig's blood and cow's blood than with oats. So that's a little harder to stomach than haggis, I think, personally.
you ever gone out and slaughtered an animal yourself?
No.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. You guys got any questions for Janet?
What made you think about Dory having Merlin as a bird?
On one of our many trips to Scotland, we were lucky enough to stay in an 11th century castle that had a falconry. And one of the privileges of staying there is you could have a morning with falconry. So we were lucky enough to have a buzzard, a falcon, and an owl come to our hand when we called. And they were magnificent birds, and that kind of experience stays with you. And when I was writing about Dory, I wanted her to have a falcon of some kind, and she could not possibly have afforded a true falcon. So a buzzard was the best she could ever hope to have. So
I've never heard about buzzards as, you know, the kind birds you'd send out to go get prey and come back. I just never had, I always think of them on the highway eating dead things. So that was one of the raptors that people would have in those days.
Yes.
Wow. More questions, you guys?
Yeah. So, like, how long did it take you to gather all the information that you did that was, like, in the book?
Okay, so there are two kinds of writers. There are planners and pantsers. I am closer to the pantser society. So planners gather all of their information, know everything they want to do, write an outline, and then fill it out with the flesh of the book. I did it more in fits and starts. Like I said, when I left Glencoe the first time, Dory was with me. So I have napkins and sheets of paper and notes to myself all over the place with phrases that Dory said or situations I thought she could encounter. And then at one point I sat down and started to physically write the book. I think I started with the first chapter. And then I would get her into a situation and not know how to get her out of it. And I would have to go back to research and say, what would really happen here? What are the resources available to her? How could she think her way out of this? So then I would stop writing and go back to research. And usually I would gather research on the topic I was looking for and several others. And then I would be able to write different parts of the book at different times and then put it all together eventually.
More questions?
Oh, I do.
Cool.
How long did it take you to make this great book?
Well, thank you for that. Let's see. Dory came home with me in 2004. I started to write the actual book in 2010. So the writing of the book took about, with all the research and the rewrites, probably about 18 months.
Wow. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have another one.
Go for it.
How many times have you actually been to Scotland?
6. Can't wait to go back.
Are you an Outlander fan?
I have never seen
Oh
Outlander.
my gosh! No, have you read the books?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. It's my only other introduction to Scotland. Oh, except for Alexander McCall Smith. I think that's my entire Scotland.
And my niece was brave enough to cross the ocean with my husband and I, without her parents, to go to Scotland with us one of the times.
Wow. Yeah, but I think you guys would go with Janet, wouldn't you? Without your parent? Maybe not. Maybe?
Maybe your own aunt and uncle, maybe.
Still a no from Sarah. No, thank you very much. Got a question?
What really ended the witch trials?
That is a great question, and it is up for great debate. The documentation at this part of the trials is contradictory to itself. The best answer I can give you is that the town leaders kind of finally fessed up that they didn't know what they were doing and sort of stopped prosecuting and opened up the jails and kind of said, go ahead.
Wow. Go ahead.
So Dory talked to one of the, I think it was a minister or someone, when she was in jail accused of a witch, and he let her free. What made you think about Dory putting some sense into him?
Well, I think that we learned throughout the book that Dory is a resourceful, a respectful, and an honorable person. And she had become a part of that community, and she took it upon herself to say, I think I know a way to help this through. I think I can figure it out. She also knew that she had her clay doll in the stream. So that gave her the courage, I think, a little extra to push. Because at first the minister was like, I've heard this all before. But for her to keep pushing and keep saying, this is what has to happen. In order for the book to come full circle for me, it had to be Dory who started the end of the witch trials. Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay.
All right, well, let's have a round of applause for Janet. We'll bring her back in a minute or two. Thank you. Well, we always like to spend time on the Book Club for Kids talking about our other favorite books. How about if we put it that way? And I'm going to start with you guys, our panel of readers, but I also want to get our suggestions from Susan Stamberg and Jana Mccreary, and we're going to invite you, the audience here at the National Archives, to tell us your favorite book as well and why. And you'll see microphones at either end of the audience section. And we'll have a list of everybody's favorite book at our website, which is bookclubforkids.org. But let's start off. Who has a favorite book? Who wants to start us off? All right, Aubrey, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Books of Elsewhere.
Which, by the way, is one of our book club selections, so you can listen to other kids talking about that. But why do you like that series?
I like it because I've actually only read one of them, but I like it because it's kind of mystery how the main character, it was possible to go through paintings in her house. It's kind of a mystery how, and she went on an adventure when she got in to be able to get out again. So,
do you like kind of fantasy books? Is that a genre you like?
Yeah, I like fantasy. And I like adventure and mystery too.
Okay, well then this suits the bill. May, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is the Sisters Grimm series.
I don't know that one.
I mean, actually a lot of people don't know, but it's a really good book.
Why do you like it?
I like it because, it has a lot of, it has a mix of mystery and fantasy, and there's actually there's a good plot line, and there's a lot of extra characters that help to thicken the plot line even more.
Is it kind of a riff on the Brothers Grimm fairy tales?
Yeah, they actually use these characters, the characters from their fairy tales are in the story as well as the other main characters in the book.
Oh, that does sound good. Thanks for that. How about you, Michaela?
My favorite book is Courtney Crumrin. The reason I like it because
I shook my head because I didn't know I don't know that one either.
because there's a lot of magical creatures, and they have this place called Goblin Town, and they use a lot of magic, and they use a lot of witchcraft.
So you're another fantasy fan too.
Yes.
All right, Sarah, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is the Curiosity House, which is actually a series. And I like it because it's a fantasy book and a mystery book. And it's about these 4 kids who live in this museum house. And their star item was a shrunken head of a Indian chief. And one day it just gets stolen and they're out to find it.
So it's a good mystery then. Do you like other mysteries as well? I mean, is that your favorite genre, do you think?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's bring our celebrity reader, Susan Stamberg, back out and ask, she not only has a favorite book, she brought it with her. Susan, what'd you bring us?
I brought you, this is a very old book, but then again, I'm a very old reader.
Oh, stop.
And this was when I was your age, ladies. This was my all-time favorite book. Anybody here read Little Women? Moms did, yeah. And did you love it the way I did? I was trying to think how many times I read this book.
Were you Joe?
Pardon?
Were you Joe?
Of course.
Okay.
In fact, most women I know, were you Joe? ladies? Yes, we all were. But let me tell you about it. The author is Louisa May Alcott, and here's how much I love this book. Look at what's happened to the cover of it over the years, and I pasted it together so that it would hold.
For those listening, it has to be the most tattered piece of paper you can imagine.
Yeah, it's absolutely tattered.
Old-fashioned tape even on the other side of it holding it together.
Yeah, and it's just stuck together as well as I could do it. That's how beloved it was for me. It was written something like almost 200 years after the Salem witch trials, but it's also set in Massachusetts, but I think a different part of town, of the state. And I'm an only child. This is a book about 4 sisters, and I think I loved it for that as much as anything else, to see what it would be like to be in a big family all those years ago, and a big loving family where everybody was in everybody else's business all the time. The girls' names were, and it's by order of their age, the eldest was Meg, the next was Jo, that's the one that all of us wanted to be, Beth and Amy. Although Beth was the youngest, so that's not really in order.
No,
I think
Amy
she was. Was Amy the youngest?
Amy the youngest, yeah.
Thank you.
I kind of think I was actually an Amy in hindsight.
Well, Amy was the most beautiful of all the girls.
Well, that wasn't why. It's because she sort of had center of attention disease.
Yeah, she loved that. She loved as much attention as she could get, and she was very artistic in her way. Jo was a writer, always, and very independent, and I think that's why we liked her so much. They were a tight and loving family, but if of all of them, Jo was the rebel, if that's too strong a word for her, but she was the one with the great ideas and the one who didn't always like the status quo and had different ways of thinking. Meg was the oldest and the best behaved, I think.
And the most boring.
And maybe the most boring. But older sisters are often that way because they have to sort of set the pattern for the ones who come after them. And Beth was the darling, and she wasn't as healthy and robust as everybody else. She was ill, and the sisters paid special attention to her because of that. So those dynamics, how they were with one another, what they learned about life, it was set during the American Civil War, and their father had to go away to serve in the war. I remember him, I don't really remember this book as well as I ought to, given how many times I read it, but I remember him as a doctor, as did Jana. We were talking about it before, but I cheated. I Googled the plot before I came to see you, and it said he was a minister. Anybody who's read it more recently have any idea what the father did? Anyway, he was away, and he was deeply missed. And life was pretty tough on the family. They had to fend for themselves in his absence. They didn't have much money. They didn't have any delicious food. And I almost memorized the very first words of this because it gives you a flavor of what the girls were like. And it's Jo, of course, who does the talking. "Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents," grumbled Jo, lying on the rug. "It's so dreadful to be poor," sighed Meg, looking down at her old dress. "I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls nothing at all," added little Amy with an injured sniff. "We've got father and mother and each other," said Beth contentedly from her corner. Beth was the peacemaker. So right away, isn't that wonderful writing? It gives you right away a sense of the character of each of those girls, so different. And Alcott does it in such a quick way. Well, I urge you, ladies, to try to do this. It's old language. It's old-fashioned language because it's a very old book. But there's some good new words to be learned from it. And the incidents in it are, although the scenery was so different, the background, the setting, but they're absolutely universal and as modern as today. So maybe sometime you'll talk in one of your book clubs about this, or anyway, take
We'll hope somebody will pick that book. Always a suggestion
wouldn't that be
out
good?
there.
Or
That'd be
you all
great.
pick it yourselves and see what you think about it. Take a look at some of the pages.
Susan, thank you.
A
Thank you
pleasure.
For sharing that with us. We want a picture of you with that book, so don't run away. But we'll have you take a seat back there and send Janet out. We'll ask her the same question. And we're inviting you in the audience. You got a favorite book? Come on down to that microphone and tell us about it. We'll only have a little bit of time, so get down there now. Janet, what's your favorite book?
Asking a writer or an avid reader what their favorite book is kind of unfair. But I finally settled on Fever, 1793 by Laurie Halse Anderson. It takes place during the yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia in 1793. And the reason why I really chose that book is because I didn't so much read it as I experienced it. I feel like I've been to Philadelphia 1793 and bitten by a mosquito. I cried through a lot of it. I celebrated. I really feel like I experienced the book, and so it gives me sort of a benchmark to shoot for when I write.
That's great. And Laurie Halse Anderson, we did her book Chains. Actually, you guys discussed Chains. Were you? No, it was a different group. It was a different group. But you can hear that conversation on our website at bookclubforkids.org. Thanks, Janet. Now we got a few folk over here. Tell me your name.
My name is Jack.
Hi, Jack. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book it's called I Funny.
What's it called?
I Funny.
I don't know it. Why do you like it?
It's so it's a series. I think it's 3 books. So it's this kid who is he's in a wheelchair because he got into a car accident. He lost all his family members.
Wow.
But the only way that it could make him, the only way that would make him forget about losing his family was comedy. So he learned from the doctors that comedy was the best medicine, and so he used to make jokes every day to other people when he worked at his uncle's restaurant or diner.
And why do you like that book? Is that a philosophy that rings true for you, that comedy is the best medicine?
Yeah, and also that he entered this competition. It was Planet's best comic. I think that's what the name was. So he lost the first round, but they called not the first round, the second round, but they called him back because he was really good, and he kept persisting, but he wanted to give up, and also he was really scared and shy around crowds, so he started sweating, and he would choke when he was in a large crowd and giving jokes. But
so he was persistent, like our character here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. And you recommend that to other people?
Yes.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that suggestion. Thank you. Somebody over here got a book they love.
Yeah, my wife and I are in agreement that our favorite book is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt.
Yeah,
and
if you want to read an 800-page book.
It's a great book and very explicit in the detail and how she describes everything. In fact, it was the 2014 Pulitzer Prize winner for fiction, and just a fascinating book. And then beyond that, my favorite books are anything by Vince Flynn.
Okay, great.
Just really enjoy that.
That's a good choice. Thank you. And your name is?
Jeff.
Jeff,
I'm
thank
Aubrey's
you.
dad.
Thank you. Oh, Aubrey's dad. All right. We'll let him have a book suggestion. How about on this side? Your name, please.
Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm Sarah's mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. My absolute go-to book, I read it almost all the time, is The Shack by William Young.
Why? Why do you like that one?
Oh, man. I can escape the world, and it just re-grounds me back to what's important. And I cannot wait until Sarah's old enough to handle the content. Although she's seen the movie and loved it.
Oh, well, good. Then
Yes.
something else you can share together. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Hi, my name's Tonya.
Hi, Tonya.
And one of my favorite books is actually a book that we read a long time ago called Ruby and the Booker Boys. And it's about a little girl, little 8-year-old, and it's actually a series. I think it's by Derek Barnes. And it's a series about a little 8-year-old girl who's savvy and brave. She has 3 older brothers, and she's just always trying to figure out what mischief they're getting into. And she's just a cool girl, and I think all little 2nd and 3rd graders should read it. It's a wonderful, wonderful series.
Thank you for sharing that, Tonya. And thanks to everybody. Oh, you got one more. Quickly. Go ahead. Tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Marco.
Hi, Marco.
One of my favorite books that I'm reading right now is Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry.
Oh, what a great writer she is, or was. How about, why do you like it?
I really like it because it's just very futuristic, and it has so many of the different things that you would obviously not do now, and it just makes you think about what could happen.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, we're going to have a list, as I said, of everybody's favorite books at our website, which is bookclubforkids.org. And if you'd like to be on the show yourself, all you have to do is have your teacher, parent, or librarian send us an email to Kitty, Kitty, at bookclubforkids, F-O-R kids.org, Kitty at bookclubforkids.org, and we will send you the step-by-step instructions about how you can tell us about your favorite book and be on the podcast. So we want to say thanks this week to Jonathan Jensen, who composed and performed our music, and Emma Steinkelmer, who designed our logo. And we want to thank our readers this week, Shimei, Michaela, Sarah, and Aubrey. Thanks, you guys, for coming out, as well as to Tonya for organizing our group, as usual. And thanks to Ember Kraft and all the folks here at the National Archives for making us feel so welcome. We have a free newsletter for teachers, parents, or librarians full of free tips about how to turn kids into lifelong readers. You can sign up at our website, bookclubforkids.org. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even Pinterest. But most important, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast provider, and ask another friend to do the same. I'm Kitty Felde. Thanks again for listening.